Gormahaguk, Taoiseach, I'm going to return to the gallant men and women of our fire services. Taoiseach, imagine if you were bound by restrictions that prevented you from travelling beyond 3 kilometres from your place of work or home without permission and being on 24/7 calls for 48 weeks of the year. Think about the enormous impact this would have on your life and the life of your loved ones and families. You would expect that such an involvement would be well remunerated. Now imagine that your meagre guaranteed income cannot be, for this life, is around 8,000 a year, a pittance. This Taoiseach is in reality for our whole-time firefighters who earn approximately £700 per month, which equates to 99 cents per hour. Just imagine. Would you take on the role that expects you to stay within 3 kilometres of your station for 99 cents an hour? COVID is ended for most of us, thankfully. They still live in COVID circumstances, confined to their bases, confined within 3 kilometres. It's inhuman. This is before we mention the dangers and the risks associated with their very important role. Now imagine that you give the commitment to your role and you are unable to apply for a car loan or a mortgage or any other kind of loan because you have supplementary income and social welfare. And I heard this morning from one of our firemen on Tipperary FM radio from Clonmel, Nina, said he had a tax on that as well. It's an outrageous situation. This Taoiseach is a sad reality for brave men and women of our retained fire service. The facts are that the Irish retained fighters are at the coalface of every human disaster and right across the state. And now they're called in, especially in Dublin, and we met them recently in Bray actually here. They're called in regularly now for the inadequate ambulance services there, and they're called in to replace. I know they do the ambulance service in Dublin, but this is outside of Dublin. They're called in to assist at cardiac arrests and God knows accidents, everything, because the ambulances are not there and they're travelling up and down the country in another failed system. Our firefighters, as I said, I don't have to say what they do. They save so many lives. They put their own lives and that of their families on the line. And just imagine today they're forced to go out on industrial action because 22 years ago, Minister Noel Dempsey promised to resolve this. That's how bad it is. Now we have over 60%, almost 60% saying they'll leave in the next 2 or 3 years. They're leaving like snow off a ditch because they can't do this anymore, even though they want to do it. They want to serve the people. They want to help their communities and their neighbours, but they can't afford to stay, and it's devastating on their family lives. And then you're telling them that they'll get that's in negotiations, and the government have accepted the report. You haven't, because the LGMA are stopping and not engaging and talking. €50 million will solve this out, for these gallant men and women, as I said, and their families, but you won't give it to them. And the Minister O'Brien stands up here, we want to sort it. Get around the table, take out that layer like you have with the HSE, the LGMA. They're saying, we have the money from the government, we can't pay you. So, thank you, Deputy. Typical spin here and typical passing of the buck. Sort out our fire services for once and for all, 22 years later, from that words of Minister Noel Dempsey at the time, that long ago. So it's time they got the respect they deserve.
Taoiseach.
Thanks, Deputy. I think we all acknowledge that the way our retained fire services has changed down the years. There's a retainer payment and then there are call-out payments. And because of improvements in fire safety, the number of call-out payments has reduced, and that needs to be reflected in changes to their terms and conditions. And we acknowledge that as a government. As I said earlier, an offer has been made, which includes a 20% increase in staff with a minimum of 12 firefighters at each station, structured time off, individual flexibility with regard to availability, 50 additional promotional positions around the country, and also flexibility to attend calls when on scheduled leave if desired. But we have a pay deal between the government and the trade unions, which involves pay increases across the board, across the year. We have to honour that agreement, and the union side have to honour that agreement as well, and we expect that to be done. The talks so far have not been successful, but they can resume. And as I said, these disputes are always resolved in the end, and if needs be, they can be resolved at the Workplace Relations Commission, and that Office of Government is available to assist should both sides be willing to engage.
The answer is not satisfactory at all, because the elephant in the room here seems to be the LGMA. They say they have the money from you. So cut out all the other engagements and movements that are shapes that are going around. All the stations in Tipperary have staff shortages. with 3 officers short in Clonmel and 2 short in Nina. Tipperary town cannot put out their second crew, and many other small towns like that. Deputy Collins gave me cases from Skibbereen and places like that. We'll have to wait an hour to get a tender from some other county. And that's the same for all of us in rural Ireland and urban Ireland. When people wait, when they're called out, they're not called unless they're needed, and they will come in all weathers and all times. Even during the rusty election, there's cover. I want to acknowledge them for that. But they need to get fair play here. They need to not have the three-way system here that the LGMA are blaming the government and you're blaming the LGMA and the firefighters. We need to sort this issue. It shouldn't be beyond surmountable to solve it after 22 years of neglect. And you talk about different changes and whatever went on. That's no good to them. You have the figures. You know, you've met them, listened to them, I'm sure, as well as me and my colleagues here in the Rural Independents. They need to be helped and sorted out. They don't ask often. We ask a lot of them. Now we're asking that you sit up and listen, engage with them, and cut out the intermediaries that have no money to solve the deal. 50 million would solve the problem.
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach, to conclude.
Deputy, I haven't engaged in any blaming. The blame game has only come from the opposition benches today on this matter. As I said earlier, we value the work of retained firefighters, highly committed people in communities across the country who provide an exceptional service. All industrial relations disputes are resolved in the end. They're resolved by negotiations and government is willing to engage. And as is often the case, Deputy, matters that can't be resolved have to go to WRC or the Labour Court, and those offices of government are available to intervene.
Very much.